Alright, what's good, YouTube? Your boys, and we back on the channel for y'all today. We got another video on Fairy Tail. Today, this video is called, what's the video called? What's it called? Mashima throws Fairy Tail's power ceiling out to the wolves. I don't know what he means by that. I'm guessing he's saying, like, there's not really that good of power scaling where, like, in the show, it still kind of has to imply that Urza is somewhat stronger than Grey and Natsu, or that Loxus is still stronger than both of them, or Natsu and Gajio are relative, where that's not really the case, at least in my eyes. You know, it's completely different. I think Natsu and Grey, not Grey, at least Natsu has surpassed Urza in terms of strength and like how he could be here in the fight, but it depends. But before I start the video, guys, I have so many. Let me go check how many actually no, I won't. I have a lot of videos on my channel and they don't get watched. Okay, I would appreciate it if you guys were to go watch the videos on my channel because I need watch time. I need some watch hours so I can actually, make it into some type of a career. I don't make money off of this. I have 100+ videos and then I don't make $1 off of this. So if you guys could, please, thank you. I love you guys. Other than that, let's get into this. Let's see what bro's talking about.
Throughout all of Fairy Tail, vast majority of the main antagonists or big bads of the story tend to get taken down by Natsu, our MC. And throughout all these different fights and experiences throughout the story, we expect Natsu to, at this point in Hunter's Quest, be not just the strongest of his team, but the strongest in the entire guild of Fairy Tail. And if you want to go even further, probably top 5 in the verse of all time. Obviously,
I don't know about top 5.
Zeref at their best are still stronger than Natsu currently is at this point, but obviously that could still very much change. However, what if I told you that despite Natsu taking on some of the strongest threats in all of Fairy Tail, he does not crack the top 3 of the Fairy Tail guild? And that it confirms one big thing about Fairy Tail, especially towards the end, or at least in Hunter's Quest. That is, power scaling does not matter, and it is on a sliding scale dependent on specific situations and stimuli. But even with that, a primary force of hierarchy is still maintained within the story, despite all the countless power.
I think that's kind of like, Jesus. I feel like that's hard to really achieve in a show where, like, it feels like a lot of the characters, they don't necessarily get stronger, right? It's just they're up against people who are just more creative or better than them at using their own abilities, which I feel like could be a good answer, but I still feel like that would just be really disingenuous to anime as a whole. Like every fight the main character gets stronger somehow, or like Goku has a reason for him to get stronger, Soul Reapers get stronger, but it's still just like you expect me to believe Loxus still beats Natsu at this point in time. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just crazy.
And powerful opponents that even Natsu has defeated throughout the course of the story. And to make matters even more interesting, the creator of Fairy Tail confirms all of this.
Really?
So we're just going to jump right into things. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, shows you guys know the content to make your other channel.
Hey, you guys too, subscribe to this channel.
Like to support the channel more directly, go check my Patreon, link in the description.
Hey, I don't got no Patreon. I'll probably never make a Patreon unless I like absolutely
have to. Everything from Patreon helps make these future videos possible and to be even more consistent than ever before. Now then, what do I mean by the fact that Hiro Mashima, the creator of Fairy Tail, basically confirms that the hierarchy of the Fairy Tail guild has not changed, but also that Natsu doesn't even crack the top 3 of the guild. Well, on the 14th...
Who's stronger than Natsu? I feel like they're going to say Loxus, Gildarts, obviously, maybe Makarov. If not Makarov, if we're not counting Makarov, then Urza, I guess. Because who else,
Or was it 15th of April, Hiro Mashima went on another Twitter space where he was answering questions from fans and interacting with everybody, and the question of, essentially, can Natsu beat Loxus, or is Loxus still stronger than Natsu, or is Gildart still the strongest in Fairy Tail? And Mashima basically says, like, taking out the whole protagonist buffs and stuff like that, Natsu can't beat Urza, Loxus, and Gildarts. Meaning that at this point, in terms of the baseline hierarchy, Mashima has no real plans on changing it whatsoever. Natsu might be top 5 in Fairy Tail, but doesn't crack the top 3. Meaning that a lot of the stuff we see Natsu do, Urza, Loxus...
Yeah, that's what that's supposed to imply, guys. If you guys don't understand power scaling at all, if one character can beat a different character, and another character is said to be stronger than Natsu, if Natsu can beat this character, that implies that Urza can beat this character, Gildarts can beat this character, Loxus can beat this character. That's what that implies, right? Like, if Goku can beat Jiren 1v1, obviously, I don't think he can. But if he can, Goku can beat Jiren 1v1, right? And then Vegeta, which we've seen, has beaten Goku. Does that mean Vegeta can beat Jiren? That's what that's supposed to imply, right? Especially in something simple as Dragon Ball, where, like, power levels and shit, characters get stronger, but when they first start out, they're not,
Gildarts are stronger in that aspect. Now, I'm going to go on to
If Natsu beats Ignia and they say that Loxus and Gildarts and Urza are stronger than Natsu, that implies that those three characters can beat Ignia. That's what I'm saying.
explain why I kind of see Mashima's points, but also why Mashima decided to primarily say taking out stuff like protagonist boosts and stuff like that and external factors. Because I think what Mashima really means is that baseline Natsu, at max maybe Lightning Flame Dragon mode Natsu, can't beat Urza, Loxus, and Gildarts going all out.
That's a crazy
1v1
statement
fights.
to say.
And to an extent,
And
I
like
can
you
see-
can't really argue that because the creator himself said that. So it's not like we're like it's just not like it's not like some random ass person just said that, you know?
that Gildarts was already a literal like continental threat just casually by himself when he was
Yeah.
first introduced, and he survived Actologia pulling his guts out. Loxus
Mhm.
and Urza were already built insanely different, and Loxus also got a power up recently in 100 Years Quest during the Doggermog arc, to the point where he doesn't even need the Dragon Slayer Lacrima in his chest anymore to have his powers, plus he has the Crimson Lightning. Urza was always just built different. Not only that, she has enchantment magic and all different types of weapons and resistances with her armors and stuff like that for a multitude of situations. So, if you want to tell me that base Natsu or at max Lightning Flame mode Natsu can't beat Urza, Loxus, or Gildarts in a 1v1 fight, go being a bit serious? I
Yeah.
can believe you. Dragon Force is where things get kind of shaky.
Yeah. It's literally like a
Now-
Super Saiyan, bro. Like how are they competing with that? I'm not saying it's unfair, but like it's just like there's no way you're gonna sit here and tell me those three characters. Only person I'll give you is Gildarts, maybe Loxus. But I 100% believe Natsu's stronger than Urza. I 100% believe that, bro.
Force for Natsu. I can see him beating Urza and Loxus. Gildarts would be a close fight, because remember, Gildarts has no Dragon Slayer magic, so him not being able to do jack shit to any kind of dragons makes complete and total sense. But I still think that having Gildarts be the top of the verse is still a cool way to show that there is still more to power than what we've gotten with Fairy Tail thus far. But current Natsu in the manga of 100 Years Quest with his brand new Fire Dragon King mode and everything like that, and the whole protagonist boosts and stuff like that Mashima mentioned, which I would say is power of friendship for the most part, or the power of emotion, then yeah, Natsu is top of the food chain in Fairy Tail. And if I were to like take the time, which would probably be like hours of research and stuff like that, to really nail down how strong Natsu, Urza, Loxus, and Gildarts are at their strongest, and to say how Natsu would win, or how definitively the hierarchy of power goes in Fairy Tail at max power with everything we know about them thus far, Natsu is on top. But also, I don't want to do shit like that, because doing that, especially with Fairy Tail, is going to take me a lot of time and rereading and stuff like that, and I really don't want to do that for a long-ass time, if I can help it in terms of that aspect, because power scaling is a slippery slope, and can literally is 1 feat or calculation away from me being entirely wrong.
Yep.
But yeah, all that's to say is that Natsu, I still think, and many others can probably confirm, that he is the strongest character in the Fairy Tail Guild, with the exception of outside the guild right now being Ignia, Zeref, and Actologia, who are both dead right now, still being at the top of the food chain, as Mashima himself has confirmed in past interviews, with Actologia being the top of the verse in terms of overall power from the end of Fairy Tail. So, that I agree with, and I really don't see any real arguments towards it. Maybe by the end of 100 Years Quest, Natsu will be on Actologia's tier of power, with the Dragon King mode that he has now once more. But even then, this whole question and answer from Mashima just confirms that he has
Crazy.
no real need or want to change the baseline power structure and hierarchy of the Fairy Tail Guild in particular. Why would he want Natsu to overpower the top 3 of the guild thus far, being Urza, Loxus, and especially Gildarts? I'm keeping Mira out of the top of the guild because she's basically relative to Urza to the most part, maybe with a lot less stamina. So she's like number 4, if I'm being honest with you, or Natsu's
Didn't
number
Gray
4,
beat
Mira is
her?
number 5. We're being
I
completely
think
honest
Gray
with us
beat
right now.
Mira.
because I think
I mean,
Lucy
I know
or
she was
Gray
possessed.
overtaking her.
Come on.
But if we're going by the baseline hierarchy of Fairy Tail, Mira is still top 5 in that aspect. So
Literally,
that would
bro.
still be an insane thing to think about. But this just shows that Mashima, in terms of power scaling, doesn't really care unless it adds to the story. And when it's outside of the plot progression of the story, having the main hierarchy of power in the Fairy Tail Guild the same as it ever was makes sense for character interactions, comedic purposes, and for just continuously giving a type of ceiling for the characters like
Yeah.
Natsu to aim for, despite in terms of real in-world feats and stuff like that, Natsu has long surpassed Urza especially. And Gildarts, I'd say raw power probably a bit higher, if not on even playing field. Loxus is still exponentially growing stronger. He's a Dragon Slayer too, and he's gotten his own buff over time, but like even then, the new big top 3 of Fairy Tail would be Gildarts, Natsu, and Loxus, with Natsu being the strongest at the end of 100 Years Quest. But Mashima doesn't care much in terms of having the members of the guild competing against each other in terms of overall strength. That was never really the point.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm gonna say
in any
Natsu
aspect.
never
I
really
thought Fairy
wanted
Tail
to be the
and OG Fairy
strongest.
Tail and the, I guess, redux of it in the Alderaan arc for the most part were done the way that they were. They weren't meant to find out the strongest in the guild. It was just desperation for specific situations with specific fights being done to progress the story. And at the end, there was, outside of the main hierarchy that was previously established, no real change in that hierarchy. Gildarts wasn't even introduced yet, and we still had the Mystigan, Urza, and Loxus trio in that aspect. Granted, I believe the manga for Fairy Tail mentions Gildarts way beforehand, alongside Urza and Loxus and Mystigan as the 4 strongest. So I could be wrong. I gotta double check on that one at some point. But even then, Mashima doesn't want to change the hierarchy of Fairy Tail. It's too much work, if I'm being honest with you. That's probably why he doesn't want to do that. But also finds it still a lot of fun and adds more to character interactions and funny and wacky scenarios for the characters to keep the hierarchy the way that it is. And to that extent, I get it. It's funny. I like it. I still find it hilarious when Natsu and Gray do not want to piss off Urza, because despite the two of them still basically being stronger than Urza, I would have to say, or bare minimum, on par with her in terms of relative strength.
I'm saying, right?
I still say Natsu very strong.
Bare minimum.
They still fear
super low ball, bro.
Of her beating them up, and I find that hilarious. Even though Natsu was very much a battle junkie to test out his strength against his friends, the hierarchy will never change ever unless the end of 100 Years Quest fully cements a new power hierarchy of some kind to be done in the future, and that I don't think is going to happen for a very long time, or even at all, based on Mashima's answer to this question to begin with. But yeah, that's really all I have to say for this entire thing with Mashima talking about the power scaling and hierarchy of the Fairy Tail Guild. I just wanted to have like a genuine fun conversation about this. This has no real circumstantial stuff whatsoever in terms of the story and actual hierarchy of power in terms of feats and numbers and calculations, yada yada yada, and hacks or whatever the hell. This was just fun to talk about and to see how Mashima views the power levels, or at least hierarchy of the characters, and how it kind of confirms what a lot of us probably figured at this point. The power levels in the story never really mattered for the most part in terms of which character.
Yeah, in Fairy Tail, it never really was like. And I feel like that's the case in most anime where like the power scaling doesn't really matter. I know I keep talking about it a lot recently, but Jujutsu Kaisen, I feel like power scaling in a sense doesn't really apply there, especially when you take like just fuck the character itself, just the base ability of what they can do compared to another character and what they can do. And that's who you know is probably going to win. You know, it's that simple. Who's able to use their technique better, who's able to use their abilities more creative. I feel like that's who like just wins. And when it comes to Fairy Tail, obviously, Natsu was never his goal was never to become the strongest. His goal was never to become the best wizard, the best mage ever. That was never his goal, right? So it makes sense that he's not the strongest in his guild, but just off of pure feats and pure shit that we've seen in the show, there's no way you're gonna sit here and try to tell me Natsu is weaker than Urza in terms of power scaling, bro. No way. I mean, Urza's been through some shit, but Natsu's the main character, and he's done a lot of crazy shit. You know, like half the people he fought, there's no way you're gonna sit here and tell me Urza's beating those characters, bro. No way. Especially in the same state that Natsu was in. No way. No way. No way. But hey, let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Y'all think the power scaling doesn't, well, obviously it doesn't matter, but let me know how much you guys think about the power scaling. Let me know if you guys think Natsu is top 1 in his guild, or will be top 1, or at least past Urza, or maybe even past Loxus. I don't know if he passed Loxus, but he's definitely past Urza in my eyes. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Other than that, I'm gonna get out of here. You have a nice day. Peace.